The queen staggered back as though struck. She tried to run after Okoro, but 2 guards blocked her path at the courtyard. She could only stand there trembling, watching as a shadow slipped through the back gate towards the girls' quarters. Inside, I stirred at the sound of the door. Okoro's hand fell on her shoulder. "Get up," he whispered. "We are going for a walk." The night sky was a black calabash, overturned on Umaneoma, its only crack the pale moon leaking through. The compound slept, but the crickets sang like mourners. Okoro's hand felt like iron on my arm as he led me out of the girls' quarters. "Where are we going?" I whispered, still half asleep, clutching my faded wrapper to my chest. "The king has sent me to take you to a new place," he muttered without looking at me. "Come quietly." Something in his voice made the hair rise on my neck. The courtyard was empty. Even the guards looked away as we passed. My bare feet made no sound on the sandy path. "Papa wants to see me?" I asked. "Is he angry about the festival?" Okoro said nothing. His jaw worked as if chewing stones. We walked past the palace gates, past the shrine of Ani where oil lamps flickered, and down the path that led to the outer farms. The air smelled of wet earth and night flowers. Each step felt like falling deeper into a dream. By the time we reached the edge of the forest, my heart was thudding. "Okoro, it's dark," I said, stopping. "We should wait till morning." He gripped my arm harder. "Move." I stumbled forward. The trees closed over us like a mouth. Somewhere an owl hooted. A hyena laughed far away. My breath came fast. "Where are we going? Please tell me." We reached a small clearing where moonlight spilled like silver. Okoro stopped. He would not meet my eye. "This is far enough." "Far enough for what?" I asked, voice shaking. He stepped back. "Your father. The king. He no longer wants you in the palace. You must stay here." The words dropped like stones in a well. "Stay? Here?" I whispered. "But I'm only a child. I don't know the forest." He turned as if to leave, and I lunged forward, clutching his legs. "Okoro, please. I have always been kind to you. I polished your spear when you were ill. I gave you my meat when they starved me. Please don't leave me here." His face twisted. For a moment his eyes glistened. "I have no choice," he muttered. "Orders are orders." "Tell Papa I'm sorry," I cried. "Tell him I will stay hidden. I won't shame him anymore. Please don't go." Okoro wrenched his legs free. "Forgive me, Chizaram," he said softly. Then, before I could grab him again, he shoved me backward. I fell into the grass, the world tilting around me. By the time I scrambled up, he was already melting into the trees. "Okoro, come back, please!" My voice broke into sobs. Only the crickets answered. Shadows swallowed his figure until nothing remained but the sound of his footsteps fading like a drumbeat. I ran after him until my breath tore in my throat, but the forest closed around me. The moon blurred through my tears. My scream ripped through the night, startling birds from the trees, a sound of a child torn from her world, echoing into the wilderness. And then there was only silence. The forest at night was a mouthful of teeth. Every tree looked like a crouching giant, every rustle a whisper of spirits. At first I ran blindly, calling Okoro's name until my voice cracked. Then the tears came again, hot, blinding until my knees gave way. I curled beneath a giant iroko root and sobbed until the cold crept into my bones. When morning broke, the forest softened. Shafts of sunlight fell through the canopy like yellow spears. Birds I had never seen before hopped from branch to branch, their feathers shimmering green and blue like palm wine in a glass. Hunger gnawed my belly, but I forced myself to stand. If they have thrown me away, then I must learn to live. I wandered until I found a cluster of udara trees heavy with fruit. I reached up, plucked one, cracked it open with my teeth. The sweet, sour juice burned my tongue but steadied me. I drank from a clear stream, washing my face, watching my reflection tremble in the water, one eye, two noses, wild hair. "You are still alive," I whispered to the girl in the water. "Stay alive." As days turned into nights, the forest began to change. It was still strange and full of danger, but patterns emerged. I learned which mushrooms glowed with poison and which healed cuts. I found a hollow in a fallen tree where I could curl at night, lining it with dry leaves. I sharpened a stick to defend myself. The girl who had been hidden in kitchens now built fires with stones and bark. The spirits of the forest seemed to notice me. A pair of white-headed birds began to follow me from tree to tree, cackling like old women. They dropped small seeds and berries at my feet as if feeding a child. At dusk, a tortoise, its shell cracked like old pottery, waddled into my hollow and stared at me with black eyes. "You are a long way from your mother's kitchen," it said. I blinked. "You talk." "Everything here talks if you listen long enough," the tortoise replied, voice slow as dripping honey. "Eat before you cry. Crying will not fill your belly." It became my companion. By day it trundled after me, telling stories of hunters lost to greed and spirits that punished liars. At night it tucked itself under my arm like a living stone and whispered, "Sleep, child of Ani, sleep." But sleep did not always bring peace. In my dreams my mother came, arms outstretched, lips trembling. "Chizaram," she called, but her voice always faded before I could reach her. Sometimes I saw my father's back turning away, Amaka's gold bangles clinking as she laughed in the courtyard. I would wake with tears on my face, clutching the tortoise like a doll. One night, as fireflies floated around me like tiny spirits, I sat on the hollow tree's edge and whispered to the dark, "If the gods left me here, they must have left a reason too. I will not die. I will not disappear." Somewhere far away, a drum beat faintly as if the forest itself answered. The sun was sliding down the forest like a spilled gourd of red palm oil, when I heard a low, muffled groan that did not belong to any animal I knew. I froze, gripping my sharpened stick. The white-headed birds tilted their heads, listening too. Even the tortoise stopped crawling. "Help," the voice came again, weak but human. "Somebody." My heart beat faster. For days, the only voices I had heard were my own and the tortoise's slow murmur. I crept toward the sound, feet soft on the leaf litter. As I pushed through a curtain of vines, the smell of blood and sweat reached me. In a small clearing lay a boy about my age, maybe a little older. His skin was the color of new palm wine, his hair matted with leaves. He was bound to a tree with ropes of twisted bark. His ankles were raw where they had struggled. A crude snare dug into his chest like a giant spider's web. His fine wrapper was torn and stained. A heavy bronze bangle marked his arm, the kind only royalty wore. "Please," he whispered, opening eyes as dark as storm clouds. "Water." For a moment I just stared. He looked like a prince from the masquerade stories, except broken, discarded. My first thought was a trap. My second was that he might be dying. I crouched by the stream that ran nearby, filled my cupped hand and trickled the water into his mouth. He drank greedily, then sagged against the tree, eyes closing. "Who did this?" I asked. "My brother's men," he said hoarsely. "They left me here to die. He wants my throne." Anger sparked in my chest. His story was a mirror of mine. "What is your name?" Obina, Prince Obina of Ngwagu. His head dropped. I looked at the ropes. They were too thick for my hands. I glanced around until I found a jagged stone sharp as a spear point. My hands trembled as I began sawing at the cords. Each cut sent splinters into my fingers, but I kept going. The tortoise watched silently from a root. The birds fluttered above, as if urging me on. "You're helping me," Obina whispered. "No one helped me," I said through clenched teeth, "but I will not be like them." One rope snapped, then another. He gasped as blood flowed back into his limbs. Finally, with a last slice, the snare around his chest fell away. He slumped forward into my arms, lighter than I expected. For a heartbeat, we stayed like that two cast-offs in the forest, holding on to each other. "Thank you," he murmured. His voice was weak but carried a strange steadiness, like a drum that had not lost its beat. I looked at him, the prince with no throne, the girl with no home, and something shifted inside me. Perhaps the gods had not abandoned me after all. Perhaps they had led me here. "Rest now," I said. "We will find a way out. Together." Above us the birds gave a wild cry and wheeled into the darkening sky, as if carrying our vow to the spirits of the forest. Night fell gently over the forest, a soft indigo veil. Fireflies glimmered like tiny lanterns between the trees. I built a small fire in the hollow I had been calling home, coaxing sparks from dry leaves and stones until the flames caught. Obina sat across from me, his arms wrapped around his knees, still weak but breathing easier now. The tortoise settled near the fire, eyes half closed, while the white-headed birds perched above like sentries. For a while we were silent. The only sounds were the hiss of the fire and the night's slow breath. I broke a roasted udara fruit in half and held one piece out to him. He took it without hesitation and bit into it, juice running down his chin. That simple act, taking food from my hand without flinching, felt like a blessing. "You've been out here long?" he asked at last. "Days," I said, staring into the flames. "I lost count. My father, he told his guard to bring me here and leave me." My voice wavered. "He said I was a blemish. I was born with one eye and two noses. People whisper I'm a curse from the gods." Obina raised his head. The firelight threw gold into his dark eyes. "I see a girl who found water, fruit, fire, and saved me. That's no curse." I swallowed hard, heat rising in my throat. No one had ever spoken of me like that. He poked the fire with a stick. "My story is different, but the wound is the same. My father died last year. My stepbrother wanted the throne. He pretended to love me, then sent his guards to escort me to the shrine. They tied me instead, left me to die, so he could be crowned." "Why?" I whispered. "Because I was born first," he said bitterly. "That's all it takes to be hated sometimes." The flames cracked, sending a spray of sparks into the night. I looked at him, the bruises on his wrists, the hunger in his face, and for the first time since I was thrown into the wilderness, I didn't feel like a ghost. Here was someone whose pain mirrored mine, a boy stripped of his home and name. "Do you hate them?" I asked. "I hate what they've done," he said slowly. "But I will return. I will show my people the truth." I hugged my knees, the fire's warmth seeping into my skin. "You don't look at me the way others do," I said quietly. "Not even my own mother dared hold my face when she wept. You just look." "Because I know what it is to be thrown away," he said simply. "And because the gods do not waste lives, Chizaram. They send them on paths we don't yet understand." Something inside me shifted, a small, stubborn glow. For the first time since I was born, hope did not feel like a sin. We sat there until the fire burned low, telling fragments of our lives, the smell of my mother's hair, the way his father used to carve flutes for him, two voices in the dark weaving a single cloth of loss and survival. Above us, the white-headed birds settled their wings and the tortoise whispered, "Sleep now, children of Ani, the forest is listening." And for the first time, I believed it. The morning we left the forest, mist lay over the trees like a white cloth on a corpse. Obina had regained some of his strength. His step was still slow, but his head was high. He had fashioned a staff from a straight branch, and I had tied a strip of bark across my face to hide my features. The tortoise refused to be left behind, plodding after us, and the white-headed birds followed in a loose circle overhead like guardians. "Beyond that ridge lies Ngwagu," Obina said, pointing with his staff. His voice trembled with something between fear and longing. "If my father's chiefs are still loyal, they will know how to act." We walked in silence for a while, the forest thinning until the path widened into red earth. My heart beat hard. This was the first time I had left the trees since Okoro abandoned me. I kept my wrapper pulled tight, head bowed. "Will they accept me?" I asked. "They will see a girl who saved their prince," Obina said. "That is enough." By noon, the gates of Ngwagu appeared, tall wooden stakes lashed together and painted with the emblems of his lineage. Guards in raffia skirts and bronze armlets stood watch, but at the sight of Obina they froze. One of them dropped his spear. "The prince!" he gasped. "Say nothing," Obina whispered. "Take me to Chief Nwadika at once." They smuggled us through a side entrance into a compound of carved pillars and old kolanut trees. There, in a smoky inner room, Chief Nwadik and two other grey-haired elders knelt before Obinya, tears shining in their eyes. "We thought you dead," Nwadik said. "Your brother has already taken the throne." "He tried to kill me," Obina said, voice steady. "With your help, I will prove it." The chiefs listened as Obina told everything, the false journey to the shrine, the ropes, the snare. When he finished, they rose like men who had been waiting for a drumbeat. "We have witnesses," one elder said. "His guards boasted in the palm wine huts. The people will hear the truth." That evening, while the stepbrothers sat on the king's stool giving orders, the square filled with villagers summoned by the beating of the royal drum. Obina stepped forward from the crowd, face lifted. A cry went up. "The prince! The prince lives!" He pointed at his stepbrother. "This man tried to murder me to steal the throne. Ask his own guards what they did. Ask the chiefs what they know." Under questioning, the guards broke. They stammered out the plot in front of everyone. Murmurs rose like a storm wind. Women ululated. Men banged their staffs on the ground. The stepbrother's face turned the colour of ash.